Hello, YouTube family. Thank you for clicking on this video and welcome to my new channel. The blessing is yours. Now, this space was created to uplift and inspire, and here you'll find encouragement, biblical teaching, and real conversations that will hopefully help you step into your divine alignment and walk boldly in your faith. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Rainy. Now, let's get into this word. Now, this is part two of my six-part series, How to Heal Your Trauma, Step by Step. And in part one, we touched a little bit on trauma, how it shows up in your life, how it shows up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And we discussed how those roadblocks, right, shows up like patterns in your life over and over and over. But realizing your trauma, it isn't enough, right? Just realizing your trauma, coping with your trauma, and trying to be positive, to move forward, that isn't enough. You need a system in place. You need to intentionally put a system in place. And I've come up with the system, and the acronym is none other than HEAL, HEAL. And each letter represents something significant in this system, and you'll have your own ways of putting things in place, but you absolutely need a system in place. Now, before I get into that, let me say this. There are different levels of trauma. I'm sure you are aware there are different levels of trauma that requires counseling, therapy, and sometimes even medication. So this here, what I'm about to go over, it most certainly does not exclude the necessary medical assistance and support that a lot of people need to heal their trauma. There are certain things that you need to do that's outside of everything else that's in here. That connection, you need to plug back in to the source, which is God. Okay, so let's get into this. Now, the H in heal is honesty. Honesty. It is extremely important. You have to be real about the negative imprints that the trauma has on your life. You have to be absolutely honest with yourself and acknowledge where the trauma is negatively impacting your life. You can't pretend as if certain traumatic experiences had no detriment on your life, right? You can't try to bury those things or pretend like it didn't happen, or make excuses for those roadblocks that you're constantly running into, that wall that you're hitting over and over and over again. You have to be honest with yourself and acknowledge the fact that there is trauma here and it's negatively impacting my life in this area. I see it, I'm aware of it, and I'm going to take action to heal from it. You know, you can't pretend like it didn't happen. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to admit that these imprints are detouring you from what your actual purpose is. That's what trauma does. It derails us, right? It derails us and throws us off track and out of alignment. So you have to admit that you're off track from your purpose. And one of the main things when it comes to being honest, and I know this may sting a little bit, but you got to be honest about some of the behaviors and the mindset that you have that is keeping you out of alignment, even if society says that it's okay. I'll give you an example. And I'm just the messenger, but excessive drinking and smoking marijuana. Now, I know, right? It's something that is celebrated in music. And trust me, I'm not judging. I used to be a smoker. I did. I used to be a smoker. But I realized that for me, now it's different for different folks. But I realized for me, I didn't like it. I didn't like the smell of smoking marijuana. I felt like it just made me come across as being so unprofessional. It just came across as just like it was rude, to just walk into an establishment just reeking of marijuana or always trying to spray cologne to cover up the smell. I felt like if I had to do all of that, then I don't need to be smoking it. I don't want people knowing my business, knowing that I'm high. People smell that marijuana on you and they think you high, so they start to play little mind games, or you thinking they playing mind games. I didn't like my eyes being red. I didn't like getting the munchies. I didn't like how forgetful I was. I didn't like that afterwards I was just exhausted. It seemed like I was just tired. And there were so many downsides of smoking marijuana. There was no need for me to do it. I said, well, why am I smoking? Just so I can feel high? Now I know what society says. It's popular, it's cool. Oh, it just takes your stress away. Yeah, but no. You have to look at the fact that, yeah, marijuana is in place for medical needs and certain things, but when you are excessive, right? And you gotta stay high. You smoke a weed every day, all day, and oh, I get through the day. This is how I calm myself down. If you have to do all of that, if you have to rely on something external to calm yourself down, to get through the day, to feel relaxed, if that's something that you feel you need to do, then there's a problem. You are out of alignment because you shouldn't need alcohol. You shouldn't need weed. You shouldn't need external things to calm you down and relax you, on a regular basis. Every once in a while, certain people like to go to the spa a couple times a month, get them a massage, set them right, relax them a little bit, take a vacation a few times a year. There are certain things that we do to get away from the mundane everyday, task and responsibilities. But when you are excessively doing something because that's how you get through your days, that's how you are able to interact with people without feeling overly stressed, and that's how you're able to function. You can't function without it. That's a problem. The same as like with casual sex. Society makes it seem as if it's cool. The music, the movies, conversation, social media, right? And the thing about it is, we see the problem that it's creating. We see the unplanned pregnancies. We see the STD, STI rates skyrocketing in every urban city across the country. The soul ties, the situationships, and just all of these different issues, broken families, and all of this from just casual sex. We're just doing whatever with our body for some type of a temporary pleasure. We don't have it in control. We're not valuing our body. We don't see our body as our temple. You have to admit that when you're excessively doing those type of things, those behaviors, it's because you're out of alignment. And it could very well mean that there's trauma in place. But you have to be honest. You can't make excuses for those things because you know that ultimately those things are taking you off track. It's distracting you. You're not able to really focus. You're just pretty much making excuses because you're not doing the work to put this system in place and actually heal. Now, let's move on. E, engage alternatives. Very next step. After you've been honest with yourself, you have to engage alternatives to those behaviors. And what do I mean by that? Healing your trauma, it's not about fixing yourself overnight. It's not even about just focusing on fixing yourself in general. It's about the journey and the process of creating this system so that whenever the trauma shows up, instead of you hitting a wall, instead of it creating a roadblock, you have a strategy in place where you can mentally, emotionally, and spiritually get back in alignment and maneuver in a way to whereas you could continue to move forward in spite of the trauma showing up. Having something in place that you can turn to instead of your current behaviors that you have in place that's helping you cope, right? That's helping you just get by, that's helping you survive. You need to have alternatives. And we'll use alternatives to the examples that I used in healing. Smoking marijuana, right? So instead of excessively uh, smoking marijuana or drinking alcohol, Put something in place whenever you feel the urge to smoke. First of all, start taking vitamins, right? So that way you can figure out what supplement, what vitamin, what can you use, what can you take to give you a natural energy, and structure your sleep. Make proper rest and sleep a priority, right? Whenever you feel the urge to drink, whenever you feel the urge to smoke, then you know, like, you know what? I need to get into the gym today. You should have enough self control to say, I don't have any weed right now, but boy, today is really stressing me out. Dealing with these people or just making me want to strangle someone. This evening, I'm going to go to the gym. Have you a routine, a regimen where you can get into the gym? Let that stress out another way. You have to figure out, what can I put in place that will keep me in alignment, where I can rely on my God-given abilities, right? I can turn to God and God can direct me on doing things where I'm in control of my life. Because see, this is why trauma takes over anyway, because you've allowed that traumatic experience to leave a negative imprint, and that negative imprint, it controls you. You have to take your control back. So instead of doing a bunch of excessive drinking because you're trying to block out that trauma or the memory of that traumatic experience, then maybe you need to learn a new skill, right? Keep your mind engaged in something else. Learn how to build, learn how to paint, learn how to install carpet. Start you a little side business where it really involves you having to use your mind, doing accounting, doing people's taxes. And then that's extra money on top of that. Learning how to trade and invest in stocks, or to pick up something else. You have to have an alternative. You have to engage in an alternative to, whereas you're not stuck in this rut when the memory of the traumatic experience comes up, or you're just stuck in this habit because the negative imprint that this trauma leaves is just, oh, I'm gonna go get a drink. I'm gonna go get a drink. No, take your control back and engage in alternatives. And there are so many different things that you can do. I can sit here all day and just list hundreds of things. Learn how to swim, you know, um, learn how to work on cars, start designing clothes, go learn about the different types of trees. Something that you didn't do well in school, like math or algebra, go take a college course and tighten up on that, because you never know what other doors can open up for you when you engage in alternatives and start to use your mind and your energy to do other things. Engage in alternatives to the behaviors that and the habits that you have now that's just helping you cope. Now we come to the A: actively create balance. Now, this is my favorite one. Ooh, this is my favorite one. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Actively create balance. What do I mean by that? You have to be intentional about getting to know yourself. Just waking up every day and knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, and your talents, it isn't enough. That isn't enough. That's surface level. You have to be intentional about getting to know yourself, because balance is not found, it is created. And you need to take inventory of things so that way you'll know how to balance, what direction, what shift is needed when you're creating this balance. So you have to be intentional when it comes to your behaviors, your habits, and repetition. You have to be very intentional. I'll give you an example. You're on social media, you look at the clock, you're scrolling, it's 3. So you have to, whether you have to set a timer, whatever it is that you need to do, just keeping track on time to say, I'm not spending any longer than 30 minutes on social media, because after 30 minutes, I've noticed that I get a little lazy, off track, and I forget about some of the things that I needed to do. It may be later in the evening that 30 minutes turn into an hour and a half. And then before you know it, you're engaging in comments, or you've come across a post that just has you up laughing, or it sparked your curiosity, something juicy, some juicy gossip. So now you on Google trying to Google more information about it. And here it is, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you need to be asleep. You have to create the balance. 30 minutes, I'm off of this. Because I know anything past 30 minutes, it sidetracks me to the point where now my day has detoured. You have to learn your limits. You have to learn your boundaries, and you have to stand for what matters. So that means that you need to show up every single day. You need to be present every single day. You're evaluating how you show up to life. Certain people that comes around, like, oh, I know that when I'm around this person, after about 15 minutes of a conversation, my energy starts to shift. You can love them and be loyal and show up, but still have boundaries in place, because you got something you need to do. You need to show up in a way where you can actually see the glory that you need to see in your life. Just because you have boundaries in place doesn't mean that you're not being loyal. And if a person is making you feel that you're not being a real friend, or you're not being loyal, or you're not showing that you care, or you're being distant just because you have boundaries, then how much do they care about you? Everyone should have boundaries, because your boundaries is not about that person. Your boundaries is not about them. Your boundaries are about you, to keep you aligned, so that way you can continue to show up as your best self. If you want to show up as your best self in a friendship, in a marriage, in any relationship with your children, your parents, at your job, if you're an entrepreneur and you have employees and you want to show up as your best self to continue producing the results that you want to see, then you have to have boundaries, because this boundary lets you know that up, it's time for me to shift back over. So that way I'm in alignment, so I can continue to show up as my best self, and everyone benefits in this situation when I'm showing up as my best self. Because if I'm showing up as my best self, then I should be pulling the best out of you when we're together. So, in other words, you have to pay attention to how you react to things, how you feel about things, what brings out the best in you, and what brings things out of you that's not helping you to move forward. You have to actively create balance, getting to know yourself, learning who you are. And this is why actively creating balance is my favorite one, because I love just getting to know myself on a deeper level, really knowing what my limits are, what my boundaries are, and then standing on those things. And it builds up my confidence. And when you build up your confidence, once you have those boundaries in place and you know what your limits are, then it expands your thinking, because you have so much mental space to explore, right? Because you have things in control. You don't have to always be worried about watching your back, who trying to run game on you, who you need to be looking out for. Oh, you can't trust nobody, and all of these different little, tidbit rules that we have in place. When you have boundaries in place and you know your limits, that's there as your guardrail. So you don't have to put so much energy on just watching every single thing. The boundaries are there. So as you get to know yourself, like, oh, they didn't stepped over my boundaries. Now it's time for me to shift. It's time for me to shift. And when you have those things in place, your mind is able to explore new ways to live, new ways to enjoy life. So let's move on to L, the final letter in the acronym. Limit energy leaks. And this is a pretty big deal as well. Limit energy leaks, right? Let's talk about these energy leaks. You need to have an energy budget. The same way you manage your time and budget your finances, well, this is the same thing, except it's with your energy. You're budgeting your energy, you're managing your energy. Whichever word works for you. I like budget, okay? Because I see energy as something that we spend, and something that, we invest, and we should be looking for a return. when we invest our energy, when we spend our energy. So I like to use budget, but if manage works better for you, whatever works, but limit the leaks and really just keep track of where your energy is going. Is it being wasted? And how you'll know if it's being wasted is by determining if there's something fruitful that you're getting from this time that you're spending putting your energy in this thing or in this person. Is it an investment? Is there an exchange? You don't want to spend too much of your energy on things where it's draining you. You walk away feeling depleted. You're wondering why you're so tired. We're living in an age now where there's so many of us working on our health and we're working to try to lose weight. And here go the pharmaceutical companies capitalizing on that with these weight loss drugs. And my prayers goes out to anyone that's, you know, taking weight loss drugs. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying be careful. I'm just saying be careful because, and the reason why I bring this up is because when it comes to losing weight, you have to be in tune with yourself. You have to understand that food is energy source. So you have to put the time into learning about the different foods, the foods that's giving you energy, the foods that's spiking your blood sugar, the foods that promotes weight loss, the best foods to eat, that'll burn fat or before you go work out, and how often you need to work out and what type of exercises you need to do and how much rest you actually need to get. Like that alone will get you, in my opinion, greater, faster results or same results, as a weight loss drug, except for hundreds of dollars less. Sometimes just getting more sleep will limit your cravings for sugary drinks or, different snacks or just those little midday, oh, I need some chips. So I need to think about it. There's been plenty of times that I can say for myself where I've had a long night and I didn't go to sleep until 3 or 4 in the morning. And the next day, I'm just groggy. I'm just grabbing. I want chips, honey bun, Kit Kat. I want to wash it down with a Sprite. Then when I get proper rest, I get up and I feel good. Then I have the energy to stop and say, hey, let me make me a spinach and egg, omelet. Or let me go ahead and eat this salad. There's absolutely a difference. So I don't want to get all off, topic, but you want to limit your energy leaks. Where are you putting your energy and what return are you getting? You want to ask yourself, am I being built up from this? When I put my energy in this situation, when I put my energy in this person, when I'm putting my energy, investing my energy here in this thing, is it building me up or is it depleting me? You have to put a cap on how much energy you're giving to these things that isn't giving you a return, that isn't pouring back into you. You have to put a cap on it. And you have to say, you know what? Every time this person comes around, I feel terrible. I vibrate low. I complain more. We don't do anything productive. I start thinking about the old days and reminiscing on exes or whatever. Those friends that when they call you or come around for some reason, the conversation just always turns into, you remember so and so? Oh, I can't stand. And you're talking about exes that you can't stand and the girl who get on your nerves at work and all your problems and your bills. And that's not what good will that do for you? What good is that going to do for you? Because here's the thing, you need to be speaking life into your circumstances and situations. You need to be speaking what God says about your circumstances and situations. You don't have time to complain. Complaining will get you nowhere. Switch it up, change it up. You know what? This conversation, look, this ain't, we gonna just sit on the phone and complaining. If you can't reroute and redirect that conversation, the conversation need to be over. Put a cap on it. All right. Well, it was good talking to you, girl. Hey, I just realized I got something I gotta go do real quick. Hey, let me get off of this phone, right? And I'll catch up with you later. Love you, sweetie. Bye. And then you take the time out when you get off that phone call. let that energy go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go and follow peace. Being honest with yourself. Yeah, those conversations with that person after a certain amount of time, it just makes me feel stressed out. You know, you have to be in the driver's seat. You have to take control when it comes to healing your trauma. It's not going to just go away. And again, as I mentioned in part one, healing your trauma, it's a journey. It's a journey. It's not something that you just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm healed." That's not how it works. And I think that you know that by now. Just think about if you've ever gone to counseling, you've ever, gone to therapy. Think about how many times you've gone to therapy or counseling, and it just seems like after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and you think to yourself, like, okay, I'm good. I have things in place where I can move forward. And then here it goes again. A couple of years later, you find yourself just feeling the need to get more counseling. In all actuality, when you think about the counselor or the therapist, they're not giving you a cure. They're pretty much giving you a treatment, helping you treat the symptoms, of trauma. The healing comes from within. Healing comes from within. God has given us the amazing ability to heal ourselves. If you get a cut, a scratch, or break a bone, some any type of injury, your body pretty much can heal itself depending on the severity of that injury. So, if there's mental, emotional, or spiritual trauma that you need to heal from, why wouldn't God give you the ability to heal that on your own as well? That healing comes from within. And so that's why I put this system in place, HEAL, to heal your trauma, right? So that way you can always have a system to realign yourself when that trauma shows up. Because chances are it'll show up in different areas at different points in your life. New levels, new devils. And here come the devil, bringing experiences up, bringing traumatic experiences up that have you to feel that trauma, to have to face that trauma. You don't want to run from it. You don't want to pretend like it isn't there. You don't want to be distracted from it. You want a system in place, so therefore you're healing your trauma. And after a while, once you tweak your system and you go to that first instead of weed, sex, partying, spending money, toxic relationships, you go back to that system that you have in place, it'll get easier and easier. You'll feel stronger and stronger. And that traumatic experience, you'll start to see how to shift and use that pain and turn it into power. And see, once that trauma is no longer causing you to hit a wall, and you know that you're healed from it, devil can't use that no more. Now it may still come back up, but you're not worried about it. You're not worried about it because you have your system in place and you turn that pain into power. It's time for us to be healed. There are a lot of things in life in this world that is distracting us. And it's causing us to be a shell of ourselves. We don't know which way is up. We don't know how to think anymore. We don't know how to feel anymore. We're not creating anymore. We're just existing, surviving. But you were created in God's image. You were created to be a creator. You were created to have visions, you know, and to use your words to speak those visions in existence. You were created to be able to speak life into things, to speak healing and prosperity and abundance. But it seems like these days, all people want to do is fight. Well, that's all I have here for you on part two of my 6-part series, How to Heal Your Trauma Step by Step. And I want you to look forward to part three. So, on that note, I'm out of here. And until next time, be blessed.